They were laughing the day my husband died. Not quiet laughter. Not nervous smiles. Real laughter. Glasses clinking. Music playing. Champagne flowing like it was a wedding, not a funeral. And none of them knew that before my husband closed his eyes forever, he had recorded a video. A video that would destroy every single person in that room. Before we go any further, pause for just a second. Drop a comment telling me the time and where you're watching from. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who might need this story today. Now, let me tell you what really happened. My name is Elena, and this story still wakes me up at night. I remember the smell first. Strong perfume. Expensive cologne. The sharp, sweet smell of champagne. It filled the large white hall where my husband's celebration of life was taking place. That's what they called it. A celebration. I stood near the back, dressed in black, holding my handbag so tight my fingers hurt. My eyes scanned the room slowly. People were smiling. People who had once called my husband their friend. People who had once eaten at our table. People who had borrowed money from him and never paid back. They stood in small groups, laughing, whispering, clinking glasses. One woman actually said, loud enough for me to hear, "Well, life goes on, doesn't it? Life goes on." For them, maybe. For me, my world had ended 3 days earlier in a hospital room that smelled like disinfectant and fear. My husband's name was Daniel. Daniel was not a loud man. He wasn't the type to walk into a room and demand attention. But when he spoke, people listened. He worked as a senior manager in a private investment firm. From the outside, he had everything: respect, money, power. But what most people didn't know was this. Daniel was tired. Tired of pretending. Tired of covering for people who stabbed him in the back. Tired of smiling at co-workers who secretly prayed for his downfall. And I knew it. I saw it in the way he sat quietly at night, staring at his laptop long after dinner was done. I saw it in the way he stopped laughing the way he used to. I saw it in the way he sometimes hugged me too tightly, like he was holding on to something slipping away. The night before he died, Daniel asked me a strange question. "Elena," he said softly, "if I wasn't here tomorrow, would you be okay?" I laughed it off. "Don't talk like that," I told him. "You're not going anywhere." But he didn't smile. He just looked at me and said, "Promise me something." I nodded. "When the time comes," he continued, "do exactly what I told you, no matter what anyone says." I wanted to ask questions. I wanted to push him to explain. But something in his eyes stopped me. So I promised. And that promise would change everything. Daniel collapsed the next morning. A sudden heart attack, they said. Quick. Painless. That was the word the doctor used. Painless. But there was nothing painless about watching your husband's body lying still on a hospital bed, machines silent, his hand cold in yours. I screamed. I begged. I broke. And while I was still trying to breathe through the pain, they were already talking. At the office, news spread fast. Some cried. Some pretended to cry. Some didn't hide their relief at all. One man, Daniel's direct superior, leaned back in his chair and said, "Well, that clears the air." I found out later. Another colleague joked. Guess the pressure finally got to him. They didn't know I was standing outside the door. Listening. Shaking. The funeral arrangement wasn't even what Daniel wanted. He had told me clearly. No big events. No fake tears. No speeches from people who never cared. But his company insisted. He was an important figure, they said. We need to honor him properly. Honor. That word tasted bitter in my mouth. They weren't honoring Daniel. They were protecting themselves. And so we stood there 3 days later, in that bright hall with white chairs and soft music playing in the background. Daniel's picture was displayed at the front. A smiling picture. One they had chosen. I stared at it and felt anger burn in my chest. That smile wasn't real. That smile belonged to a man who didn't know yet how deeply he had been betrayed. I overheard conversations as I walked slowly through the room. Now maybe things will finally move forward. He was always too careful. He knew too much. That last sentence made my heart skip. Knew too much? I stopped walking. My ears rang. Before I could think, a woman laughed and said, "At least he didn't drag anyone down with him." I turned to look at her. She avoided my eyes. Coward. I wanted to scream. I wanted to knock the glasses out of their hands. But then I remembered Daniel's words. Do exactly what I told you. After the short speeches, filled with empty praise and carefully chosen lies, the host announced that guests were free to mingle and drink. That's when the mood completely changed. Music got louder. Laughter filled the air. Someone even danced. Yes, danced. At my husband's funeral. I felt sick. I walked outside for air, my legs weak. That's when my phone vibrated. A message. From Daniel. My breath stopped. That's impossible, I thought. But there it was. A scheduled message. It read, if you are reading this, then they are celebrating. Go to the side room. Open the black folder. It's time. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the phone. Side room? Black folder? My heart began to pound. I remembered something. 2 weeks before Daniel died, he had asked me to store a folder in the safe at home. He said it was work-related. Don't open it, he warned gently. It's not time yet. I didn't ask questions. I trusted him. Back inside the hall, I noticed a small room near the stage. A technical room. The door was slightly open. No one was paying attention. They were too busy laughing. I walked toward it slowly, my heart racing with every step. Inside the room was a small table. A laptop. A USB drive. And a black folder. Exactly as Daniel said. I opened the folder. Inside was a single note, written in Daniel's handwriting. It said, they think I'm gone, but the truth is about to arrive. I covered my mouth to stop myself from crying out loud. I picked up the USB drive. Suddenly, footsteps approached. Voices. Someone said, let's wrap this up. People are getting restless. I knew then. Whatever was on that drive, it was meant for everyone. I walked back into the hall, holding the USB tightly like it was my husband's hand guiding me. The host tapped the microphone. Before we close, he said, smiling, Daniel's wife would like to say a few words. Every head turned toward me. The room went quiet. I stepped forward. My heart thundered in my chest. I looked at their faces. Smiling. Relaxed. Unaware. And I smiled back. Because they still didn't know. The room was silent. Too silent. Dozens of eyes stared at me as I stood near the microphone. My heart beating so loud I was sure someone could hear it. The soft background music had stopped. Even the clinking of glasses was gone. I could feel their curiosity. Some looked at me with fake sympathy. Some with impatience. Some with mild fear. They were wondering what I would say. They thought I would cry. They thought I would thank them for coming. They thought I would praise my husband and then quietly step away. They were wrong. But I wasn't ready yet. Not just yet. I took a deep breath and began softly. Thank you all for coming, I said. A few people nodded. Someone smiled. I continued, my voice calm, almost gentle. Daniel would have appreciated this gathering. That word, gathering, felt safer than celebration. I paused. I could feel the tension rise. Then I added, there's something Daniel wanted you all to see. The smiles faded. Just slightly. The host frowned politely. Oh, we weren't informed of any. I know, I interrupted gently, still smiling. That's because he wanted it this way. The room shifted. Someone cleared their throat. A woman crossed her arms. Daniel's boss leaned forward in his chair, eyes sharp. I walked toward the small screen mounted near the stage. The technician looked confused as I handed him the USB drive. Please, I said quietly, play this. He hesitated. He looked at Daniel's boss. Daniel's boss gave a small shake of his head. No, he said quickly. I don't think this is appropriate. My hands trembled, but my voice didn't. My husband asked me to, I said. And I promised. The word promised landed heavily in the air. There was a long pause. Then the technician slowly took the USB. I'll just check it, he muttered. As he plugged it in, my mind drifted backward. Daniel had come home late that night. Later than usual. His tie was loose, his shirt wrinkled, his face pale. I met him at the door. Are you okay? I asked. He nodded, but it wasn't convincing. He went straight to the bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor. I followed him. Daniel, I said gently, what happened? He looked up at me. And for the first time in our marriage, I saw fear in his eyes. Not stress. Not exhaustion. Fear. They're doing something illegal, he said quietly. My heart skipped. Who? I asked. The firm, he replied. The people I work with. The ones who smile in meetings and toast to success. I sat beside him. What do you mean illegal? He swallowed. They're stealing. Not just money. People's lives. Retirements. Futures. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. Daniel, how do you know? He leaned back and rubbed his face. Because I found the files, he said. And they don't know that I know. That night, Daniel told me everything. About secret accounts. About forged signatures. About fake losses reported to cover real theft. Millions of dollars. Stolen quietly over years. He had stumbled onto it by accident while reviewing an audit that wasn't meant for him. At first, I thought it was a mistake, he said. But then I realized it wasn't. What are you going to do? I whispered. He looked at me torn. I wanted to go to the authorities, he said. But I know these people. They're powerful. They have connections. He took my hand. And they won't let me walk away. I told him to quit. To leave the job. To walk away from everything. He shook his head. It's too late, he said. They already suspect me. That was when fear truly settled in my chest. The technician cleared his throat. There's a video file, he said. Daniel's boss stood up. I don't think this is necessary, he said sharply. This is not the time or place. I looked straight at him. It's exactly the time, I said. And exactly the place. The room buzzed with whispers. Someone said, What's going on? Another muttered, This is uncomfortable. Good. It was supposed to be. The lights dimmed slightly. The screen flickered. And then, Daniel appeared. My breath caught in my throat. There he was, sitting in our living room, wearing the blue shirt I bought him for his birthday, looking directly into the camera. Alive. The room gasped. Someone whispered his name. I heard a glass fall and shatter. Daniel spoke calmly. If you're watching this, he said, then I'm probably dead. A sharp intake of breath echoed through the hall. I want to be clear, Daniel continued. This is not an accident. And it is not natural. Murmurs erupted. What is this? Turn it off. This is inappropriate. But Daniel kept talking. For months, he said, I have worked with people who present themselves as leaders, as mentors, as friends. The camera zoomed slightly closer to his face. But behind closed doors they are thieves. Gasps. Daniel's boss's face drained of color. They steal from widows, Daniel continued. From pensioners. From families who trusted them with their life savings. The room was frozen. No one laughed now. No one smiled. They assume I am weak, Daniel said. That I will stay silent. He paused. They are wrong. I felt tears streaming down my face. But they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of justice. Daniel leaned forward slightly. To my wife, he said softly, Elena, I'm sorry. My knees nearly gave out. I tried to protect you, he continued. If you're watching this, it means I failed. I shook my head, whispering, No, you didn't. Daniel straightened his shoulders. To everyone else in that room, he said, his voice firm, you are there because you played a role. The room erupted. That's a lie, someone shouted. Turn it off now. Daniel's boss yelled. But the technician stood frozen. All documents, Daniel said, have already been sent to the authorities. A scream rang out. No, there are copies, Daniel continued calmly. Multiple copies. Stored safely. Daniel's boss stumbled backward, knocking over a chair. This is fake, he shouted. This is manipulation. Daniel smiled faintly on the screen. If you're thinking of denying this, he said, check your email. Phones buzzed. One by one. People looked down. Faces turned white. Hands shook. I watched as the celebration turned into chaos. Champagne glasses abandoned. Whispers turning to panic. Smiles replaced with fear. The truth had arrived. Daniel ended with one final sentence. You celebrated my death. Now live with the truth. The screen went black. The room exploded. Shouting. Crying. Accusations. Police sirens wailed in the distance. And I stood there, shaking, knowing this was only the beginning. For a few seconds after the screen went black, no one moved. It felt like the entire room had stopped breathing. Then everything happened at once. No, 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 this can't be real. This is a setup. Turn the lights back on. Voices crashed into each other like waves in a storm. Chairs scraped loudly against the floor as people jumped up. Champagne glasses shattered as hands shook too hard to hold them. Someone near the front began to cry, loud, ugly sobs filled with panic. I stood still. I didn't speak. I didn't move. I just watched. Daniel's boss, Mr. Caldwell, pushed his way toward the stage, his face red and sweaty. "This is illegal," he shouted. "Who authorized this video?" No one answered him, because everyone was too busy checking their phones. One by one. Buzz. 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 Emails arriving. Attachments downloading. Truth spreading. I watched as a man near the window dropped his phone like it had burned him. A woman whispered, "Oh God, oh God." Another man shouted, "Delete it. Delete everything." But it was already too late. Daniel had planned this perfectly. Police sirens grew louder outside. Someone screamed, "They're here!" Panic exploded. People rushed toward the exits, pushing, tripping over each other. The same people who had laughed minutes earlier were now desperate to escape. To run. To hide. I felt a strange calm wash over me. For the first time since Daniel died, my chest didn't feel tight. This was what he meant. Do exactly what I told you. 2 police officers entered the hall, followed by 4 more. Then more. They moved fast and with purpose. "Everyone stay where you are," one officer shouted. No one listened, until handcuffs clicked. I watched as a woman in a red dress was pulled aside, crying and begging. "I didn't know," she sobbed. "I swear I didn't know." A man tried to slip out through a side door. 2 officers blocked him instantly. "Sir," one said calmly, "please put your hands where we can see them." Mr. Caldwell stood frozen near the front. He looked around like a trapped animal. Then his eyes locked onto mine. The look he gave me wasn't anger. It was terror. "You," he hissed, pointing at me. "You knew." I tilted my head slightly. "Yes," I said softly. "I did." His face twisted. "You think you've won," he snarled. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." I stepped closer to him, close enough to smell the alcohol on his breath. "My husband did," I replied. "That's why he beat you. They took him away in handcuffs." The man who once controlled boardrooms and bank accounts now couldn't even wipe the sweat off his face. And as they dragged him past me, he whispered something that made my blood run cold. "This isn't over." The hall was empty. Silent. Broken. I sat alone in a small side room, wrapped in a blanket an officer had given me. My hands were still shaking. An officer named Reyes sat across from me. "We'll need a full statement," he said gently. "But first, are you okay?" I nodded, even though I wasn't. "I need to tell you something," I said. He leaned forward. "My husband knew this would happen," I whispered. "He knew they might kill him." Officer Reyes's expression hardened. "Did he say that?" "He prepared for it," I said. "The video, the files, everything." I told him about the late nights. The fear in Daniel's eyes. The black folder. The promise. Officer Reyes listened carefully. When I finished, he exhaled slowly. "Your husband was very brave," he said. I swallowed hard. "He was just tired of lying," I replied. "That night I didn't go home. The police advised against it. Too risky, they said. Too many people angry. Too many loose ends. They took me to a safe hotel instead. A quiet place. Or so I thought. 3:17 a.m. I woke up to a sound. A soft click. My eyes snapped open. The room was dark. Too dark. The hallway light that should have been visible under the door was gone. My heart began to race. Click. Another sound. Closer. I reached for my phone. No signal. My breath became shallow. Daniel's voice echoed in my head. "They won't let me walk away." The door handle moved. Slowly. Silently. I sat up in bed, frozen. Every instinct screamed at me to run. but my body wouldn't move. The door opened just enough for a shadow to slip inside. A man. Tall. Wearing gloves. I couldn't see his face. "You should have stayed quiet," he whispered. My mouth went dry. "I don't know what you're talking about," I lied. He chuckled softly. "Your husband talked too much," he said. "Now you will too." I screamed. The sound ripped out of my chest. The man lunged toward me. But before he could reach me, the lights came on. "Police! Don't move!" The man froze. Then ran. Officers flooded the room. One tackled him to the ground. Handcuffs snapped shut. The man struggled, shouting curses. And as they dragged him away, he turned his head just enough to look at me. And he smiled. Officer Reyes rushed to my side. "Are you hurt?" I shook my head, crying now. He looked furious. "They sent him," I whispered. "Yes," he said grimly. "And that tells us everything." News exploded. Headlines everywhere. Top executives arrested in massive fraud scandal. Whistleblower's final video exposes millions stolen. Daniel's face was everywhere. Not smiling. Not polished. But honest. People called him a hero. They called him brave. They called him a martyr. I called him my husband. But the danger wasn't over. Because there was still one name missing. One person Daniel warned me about. One shadow still hiding. That night, I opened the black folder again. At the very bottom was a note I hadn't seen before. It read, "If they come for you, the real enemy is closer than you think." My blood ran cold. I read the note again. Then again. And again. "The real enemy is closer than you think." My hands trembled as I folded the paper. Closer than I think. Who could be closer than the people already arrested? My mind raced through names. Co-workers. Executives. Lawyers. None of them felt close enough. Then a thought crept in. Slow. Quiet. Terrifying. I looked up at the hotel room mirror. My reflection stared back at me. Pale. Tired. Afraid. "Don't be ridiculous," I whispered to myself. But my heart was already beating faster. Daniel had been unusually quiet at dinner. He barely touched his food. I noticed, of course. I always noticed. "Talk to me," I said gently. He looked at me like he wanted to say something, like the words were trapped in his chest. Then he shook his head. "Not yet," he murmured. That should have been my first warning. Later that night, the doorbell rang. Unexpected. I checked the time. 9:43 p.m. Daniel stiffened. "Who is that?" I asked. He stood up. "I'll get it." It was Maya, my younger sister. She smiled brightly when she saw me. "Surprise," she said, holding up a bottle of wine. "Thought I'd check on you too." I hugged her. She smelled familiar. Safe. Family. Maya had always been close to us. She lived nearby. She visited often. She trusted Daniel. Or so I thought. That night, she and Daniel talked in low voices while I cleaned up in the kitchen. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I remember this clearly. Daniel looked tense. Maya looked calm. Too calm. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "You should stop digging." My breath caught. I typed back quickly. "Who is this?" 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then another message came. "Daniel didn't trust everyone. You shouldn't either." I felt sick. This wasn't random. This person knew Daniel. Knew his secrets. Knew me. Officer Reyes had warned me. "Be careful who you talk to," he said. "Even family." At the time, I thought he was just being cautious. Now those words echoed loudly in my head. I decided to go home. Against advice. Against fear. Because I needed answers. And I knew exactly where to look. Walking into our home felt like stepping into a memory. Everything was the same. Daniel's shoes by the door. His jacket still hanging on the chair. I stood there holding my breath. "Daniel?" I whispered out of habit. Silence answered. I went straight to the study. Daniel's laptop was still there. I turned it on. Password protected. Of course. Then I remembered something. Our anniversary. I typed the date. Access granted. My heart raced as files appeared on the screen. Folders inside folders. Names. Dates. Accounts. And then I saw one folder that made my stomach drop. Maya. No, I whispered. I clicked it. Inside were emails, messages, voice recordings. Maya had been feeding information to someone, meeting someone, reporting on Daniel. For months. My hands shook as I played one recording. Maya's voice filled the room. He's suspicious, she said calmly. But he doesn't suspect me. Another voice replied. Good. Keep him calm. I couldn't breathe. Why? Why would my sister do this? Another file. A video. Time-stamped 2 days before Daniel died. Daniel sat alone in the study. He looked straight into the camera. Elena, he said softly. If you're watching this, then I was right. My heart shattered. I didn't want to believe it, he continued. But Maya is involved. Tears streamed down my face. She came to me pretending to help, Daniel said. But she asked questions she shouldn't have. He sighed. I think they promised her money. Or protection. Or both. I collapsed into the chair. My sister. My own blood. Daniel leaned closer to the camera. She knows about the video, he said. But she doesn't know when it will be released. I covered my mouth. She will panic after my death, Daniel said. And when she does, she will expose herself. My phone rang. Maya's name flashed on the screen. I stared at it. My heart pounded. I answered. Elena, she said sweetly. I heard what happened at the memorial. Are you okay? Her voice sounded normal. Too normal. I'm fine, I replied carefully. Just tired. I was worried, she said. People are saying crazy things. I swallowed. Are they? I asked. Yes, she said quickly. You shouldn't listen to rumors. I closed my eyes. Maya, I said quietly. Where were you the night Daniel died? Silence. Then a small laugh. What kind of question is that? Answer me, I said. Another pause. I was home, she said. Why? I smiled sadly. Just asking. After we hung up, I knew. She knew that I knew. That night, someone broke into my house. They didn't steal anything. They just left a message. Written on the wall. In red. Stop now. I sank to the floor, shaking. But instead of fear, I felt anger. Daniel was right. She would expose herself. And she was running out of places to hide. I didn't clean the message off the wall right away. I stood there for a long time, staring at the red letters dripping slowly toward the floor. Stop now. It wasn't just a warning. It was fear. And fear makes people careless. That was the moment I stopped running and started planning. I called Officer Reyes. He didn't sound surprised. They're escalating, he said calmly. Which means they're losing control. I know who it is, I said. There was a pause. Say the name. My sister, I whispered. Maya. Another pause. Longer this time. Then a quiet curse. We suspected someone close, he said. But hearing it is different. I want to help, I said. I want to finish what Daniel started. You'll be in danger, he warned. I already am, I replied. Officer Reyes didn't tell me everything. And I didn't ask. Because Daniel had already taught me something important. The less you know, the safer you are. But there was one thing Reyes needed from me. Act normal, he said. Let her think she's winning. Winning. That word made my stomach turn. So I did exactly that. I called Maya the next morning. Hey, I said softly, letting my voice shake just enough. Can we meet? She sounded relieved. Of course, she said. I was worried about you. I almost laughed. Almost. We met at our usual cafe. The one Daniel and I used to visit on Sundays. Maya arrived early. She always did. Control meant everything to her. She smiled when she saw me and wrapped me in a hug. You look terrible, she said gently. Thanks, I replied. We sat down. She ordered my favorite drink without asking. A small detail, but it told me everything. She was still pretending nothing had changed. I don't know how to handle all this, I said quietly, staring into my cup. The police, the media, Daniel's work. Maya reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You don't have to handle it alone, she said. I'm here. There it was. The hook. I found some of Daniel's files, I said slowly. Her fingers tightened. Work stuff, I continued. I don't understand it. Her eyes flickered. Just once. But I saw it. I think he was paranoid, I added. Maybe sick. Maybe imagining things. Maya nodded quickly. Yes, she said. Stress can do that. She leaned closer. You should give the files to someone who knows how to handle them, she said gently. Like who? I asked. She hesitated, then smiled. Like me. Bingo. That night, I told Officer Reyes everything. She took the bait, he said. Good. What now? I asked. Now, he replied. We wait for her to make a mistake. 2 days later, I sent Maya a message. I found another folder. Daniel hid it well. I'm scared. Can you come over? She replied in under a minute. On my way. I left the house exactly as instructed. Unmarked car. 2 officers watching from across the street. Cameras hidden. Audio recording live. Daniel would have approved. Maya arrived 10 minutes later. She didn't knock. She used her spare key. That hurt more than I expected. From the monitor, I watched her walk through the house. Calm. Confident. She went straight to the study. She knew where to look. She opened the desk drawer. Then the cabinet. Then the false panel behind the bookshelf. My heart pounded. She knew too much. She found the folder. The one Officer Reyes had prepared. Filled with fake files. Fake accounts. Fake names. But real enough to scare her. Maya sat down and began flipping through the pages. Her breathing changed. Faster. Shallow. She picked up her phone. I have it, she whispered. Yes, everything. A pause. No, she doesn't know, she said. She trusts me. Another pause. I'll bring it tonight. The call ended. Officer Reyes looked at me. That's our missing link, he said. The final one. Who is she talking to? I asked. He didn't answer immediately. Then he said, someone higher than Caldwell. My stomach dropped. Later that night I went home. Alone. Against advice. Against fear. Because this part had to be real. Maya was waiting inside. Sitting on the couch. The folder on the table. She stood when she saw me. Elena, she said softly. We need to talk. I locked the door behind me. Yes, I said. We do. She sighed and rubbed her temples. You shouldn't have gotten involved, she said. Daniel made things complicated. I stared at her. You betrayed him, I said. You betrayed me. Her face hardened. You don't understand, she snapped. They would have destroyed us. Us, I repeated. She laughed bitterly. They promised me money. Safety. A new life. And Daniel? I asked. She looked away. He was in the way. Those words cut deeper than any knife. You knew they might kill him, I said. She didn't deny it. I tried to warn him, she said quietly. I told him to stop digging. My hands shook. And when he didn't? She met my eyes. I told them where he would be. The room spun. I felt like I was falling. You're a monster, I whispered. She stepped closer. No, she said. I'm a survivor. Suddenly, red and blue lights flooded the room. Police shouted. Hands where we can see them. Maya froze. Her eyes widened. Officer Reyes stepped inside. It's over, he said. She screamed. You set me up. I looked at her, tears streaming down my face. You did that to yourself. As they took her away, she turned back to me and said something I'll never forget. They won't stop. You're next. The door closed. The house was silent. Daniel's house. Our house. That night, I opened the black folder one last time. At the very bottom, a final message from Daniel. If you're reading this, then the trap worked. But the final truth is still hidden. My heart sank. Because I knew. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. The house felt empty after they took Maya away. Not quiet. Empty. Like something had been ripped out of it and left a hollow space behind. I sat on the floor of the study for a long time, staring at Daniel's desk. His chair was still slightly pulled back, just the way he left it. A coffee ring stained the corner of the table. Proof he had been real. Proof he had lived. And proof that someone had decided his life was disposable. I opened the black folder again. I didn't want to. But Daniel wouldn't have left that last message unless it mattered. The final truth is still hidden. My fingers traced the edges of the folder. What didn't you tell me? I whispered. At the very bottom, taped to the inside cover, was something new. A tiny flash drive. I had missed it before. My heart began to race. I plugged it into Daniel's laptop. The screen flickered. One folder appeared. Just one file inside. A video. Daniel's face filled the screen again. But this time he looked different. Tired. Bruised around the eyes. And afraid. Elena, he said quietly, if you're seeing this, then Maya has been exposed. I closed my eyes. I hoped I was wrong about her, he continued. But I wasn't. He took a deep breath. There's someone else, he said. Someone higher. Someone untouchable. My stomach tightened. I can't say the name out loud, Daniel said. Not yet. He glanced toward the door, even though he was alone. They monitor everything, he whispered. Phones. Emails. Even rooms. My skin crawled. Daniel leaned closer to the camera. So I'm going to show you instead. The screen changed. Documents appeared. Photos. Bank transfers. Private flights. Political donations. One name kept repeating. A name I recognized instantly. And my blood turned to ice. Victor Hale. I felt dizzy. No, I whispered. Victor Hale wasn't just powerful. He was untouchable. A public figure. A philanthropist. A man who appeared on television talking about integrity and justice. He funded hospitals. He gave speeches about honesty. And according to Daniel, he was the head of everything. He doesn't work for the firm, Daniel said in the video. The firm works for him. My chest tightened. Caldwell answers to Hale, Daniel continued. So did Maya. So did everyone. Daniel rubbed his face. He launders money through investments, he said. Uses shell companies. Charities. The screen showed charts. Connections. Years of careful theft. If this comes out, Daniel said softly, it will shake everything. He swallowed. And that's why they won't let it. The video ended. I sat there shaking. This wasn't just about Daniel anymore. This was bigger. And deadlier. When I showed him the evidence, he didn't say a word for a long time. Finally, he leaned back and exhaled. This man has friends everywhere, he said. Courts. Media. Government. So what do we do? I asked. Reyes met my eyes. We move carefully, he said. And quietly. They put me under tighter protection. New phone. New routine. Different cars. I felt like a prisoner. But a living one. Meanwhile, Victor Hale went on television. Smiling. Calm. Recent events have shocked us all, he said. Corruption has no place in our society. I wanted to scream. Then something unexpected happened. Hale requested to see me. Privately. Reyes was furious. It's a trap, he said. I know, I replied. But Daniel planned for this. The meeting took place in a private office. Glass walls. Soft lighting. Security everywhere. Victor Hale stood when I entered. Tall. Polished. Kind eyes. The kind that made people trust him. Elena, he said warmly. I'm so sorry for your loss. I nodded stiffly. He gestured for me to sit. I admired Daniel, he said. He was brilliant. Liar. I hear you've been through a lot, he continued. Confusion. Pressure. I stayed silent. He smiled gently. I want to help you, he said. Make all this go away. There it was. I don't need help, I said. He leaned forward. You do, he replied softly. Because accidents still happen. My heart pounded. He slid an envelope across the table. Enough money for a fresh start, he said. Anywhere you want. I didn't touch it. What about Daniel? I asked. His smile faded slightly. Daniel made choices, he said. Unfortunate ones. I stood up. You killed him, I said quietly. The room went silent. Victor Hale looked at me. Really looked at me. Then he smiled again. Cold this time. Prove it, he said. I walked out. Hands shaking. But my mind clear. Daniel hadn't just left evidence. He'd left leverage. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. A video message. I opened it. Victor Hale sat behind a desk. Same office. Same calm smile. You should stop, he said. For your own good. The video cut. Then another message arrived. An address. And 3 words. Come alone. Or else. I knew what else meant. They were done threatening. They were ready to act. I opened Daniel's final note again. At the bottom, written faintly, "The truth needs a witness." I swallowed hard. "I'm ready," I whispered. Because the final move had always been mine. I didn't tell Officer Reyes everything. Not because I didn't trust him, but because Daniel had been clear. The truth needs a witness. And witnesses don't always survive when too many people know the plan. The address Victor Hale sent led to an old waterfront building. Abandoned. Quiet. Too quiet. The kind of place where screams disappear into the night and never come back. I parked 2 blocks away, just like Daniel had instructed me in one of his hidden notes. Never arrived directly. The wind off the water was cold. It cut through my coat as I walked toward the building, every step echoing in my chest. My heart beat so loudly I was sure someone could hear it. The door was unlocked. That alone told me everything. This wasn't a negotiation. It was a test. Inside, the smell of rust and damp concrete filled the air. 1 bare light bulb hung from the ceiling, flickering like it might give up at any second. Victor Hale stood near the center of the room. No guards. No weapons in sight. Just him. Calm. Waiting. "You came," he said, smiling. "I said I would," I replied. He nodded approvingly. "Brave," he said. "Or foolish?" "Which one was Daniel?" I asked. His smile tightened. "You think you know the truth," Hale said, walking slowly around me. "But truth is flexible." I stood still. "You kill my husband," I said. "You don't get to lecture me about truth." He stopped in front of me. "I didn't kill him," he said softly. "I simply removed an obstacle." My hands curled into fists. "You ruined lives," I said. "Stole futures." He sighed, almost bored. "And yet," he replied, "the world kept turning." He leaned closer. "You can stop this," he said quietly. "Walk away. Live comfortably. Forget." I looked him in the eye. "No." That was when he laughed. A real laugh. Sharp. Cold. "Daniel said you'd say that," Hale said. My blood ran cold. "What?" I whispered. "He talked about you often," Hale continued. "Your strength. Your loyalty." I felt sick. "You met him," I said. "Oh yes," Hale replied. "Many times." The light flickered. For a moment his face looked different. Harder. More dangerous. "He begged me to stop," Hale said. "To let him go to the authorities." My nails dug into my palms. "And you refused," I said. Hale nodded. "Of course," he said. "Because if I fall, a lot of people fall with me." Suddenly, footsteps echoed. My heart leapt. Hale smiled. "Ah," he said. "The witness." A door opened behind me. Someone was pushed inside. I turned, and my breath caught. It was Caldwell. Bruised. Handcuffed. Terrified. "You see," Hale said calmly, "even rats are useful when cornered." Caldwell looked at me, eyes wild. "He made me do it," he screamed. "He ordered everything." Hale sighed. "This is why I hate loose ends." He turned to me. "You wanted proof," he said. "Here it is." Caldwell collapsed to his knees. "He killed Daniel," Caldwell sobbed. "He arranged it. The heart attack. The timing. The room spun." Hale pulled out his phone. "Recorded," he said casually. "Confessions are such fragile things." I swallowed. "You just admitted it too," I said. He smiled. "No," he replied. "I demonstrated control." Then sirens wailed outside. Loud. Close. Too close. Hale's smile vanished. "What did you do?" he snapped. I met his eyes. "I became the witness," I said. Doors burst open. Police flooded the room. Weapons raised. Shouting. Chaos. Hale turned to run. He didn't make it 3 steps. They tackled him hard. Caldwell screamed. I sank to my knees, shaking, as Officer Reyes rushed to me. "You did it," he said. I shook my head. "No," I whispered. "Daniel did." As they dragged Victor Hale away, he looked at me. Not angry. Not afraid. Almost impressed. "This ends nothing," he said calmly. "Others will take my place." I wiped my tears. "Maybe," I said. "But you won't." That night, the truth finally broke free. News alerts, emergency broadcasts, arrests across the country. Daniel's evidence had done its job. But as I sat alone later, wrapped in a blanket, I realized something painful. Justice doesn't bring peace. It brings silence. And silence is loud. I looked at Daniel's photo on my phone. I finished it, I whispered. But the story wasn't done yet. Because now the world knew his name. And they wanted to hear my voice. The morning after Victor Hale was arrested, the world felt unreal. Not quiet. Not calm. Unreal. Like I had stepped into someone else's life and was waiting to wake up. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Messages. Unknown numbers. Voicemails piling up faster than I could listen to them. I turned it off. For the first time since Daniel died, I needed silence. Outside the safe house, reporters gathered. Cameras. Microphones. Questions shouted into the air. Did your husband know he would die? Are you afraid for your life? Will you testify? Every question felt like another wound being opened. Officer Reyes sat across from me at the kitchen table. He looked exhausted. So, he said gently, the world knows. I nodded. And now? I asked. He hesitated. Now comes the hard part. The arrests didn't end with Hale. They spread outward like cracks in glass. Executives. Politicians. Bank officials. Some resigned. Some were arrested. Some vanished. Daniel's name was everywhere. Whistleblower hero exposes corruption from beyond the. They said he was brave. They said he was noble. They said he was a symbol. But I knew the truth. He was scared. He was tired. He was human. And that mattered more than any headline. I was called to testify. Again and again. Rooms filled with serious faces and quiet pens scratching paper. They asked me to relive everything. Daniel's fear. The betrayal. The night he died. Each time it hurt a little more. One day, after hours of questions, a woman across the table looked at me and said, "You saved a lot of people." I wanted to scream. "No," I said softly. "My husband died." The room went silent. I didn't see Maya again. Not in person. But I heard about her. She took a plea deal. Traded names for a reduced sentence. Family. Friends. People we once trusted. She sent me a letter. I didn't open it at first. It sat on my table for days. Heavy. Waiting. When I finally did, my hands shook. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was scared. I thought I could control it. I stopped reading. Some betrayals don't deserve closure. I went back home eventually. The house felt smaller. Colder. Too full of memories. Daniel's mug still sat by the sink. I didn't move it. At night I talked to him. Out loud. "I hope I did it right," I whispered. The silence answered. Weeks passed. Then months. New scandals replaced the old ones. New villains. New headlines. People stopped calling. Stopped asking. Stopped caring. That's how the world works. But sometimes, late at night, my phone buzzed with messages from strangers. "Your husband saved my pension. Because of him, my parents didn't lose everything. Thank you for finishing what he started." I cried every time. One afternoon, a producer contacted me. They wanted my story. A book. A documentary. A speaking tour. "People need to hear this," they said. I laughed bitterly. "They already did," I replied. But that night, I reread Daniel's final note. The truth needs a witness. And I realized something. The truth doesn't just need to be revealed. It needs to be remembered. Even with protection gone, I still checked locks twice. Still flinched at sudden sounds. Still scanned rooms for exits. Truth leaves scars. One evening as I walked home, a man passed me and whispered, "Hero." I froze. He kept walking. I stood there shaking. I wasn't a hero. I was just a woman who refused to stay silent. Justice didn't bring Daniel back. It didn't fill the space beside me in bed. Didn't replace his laugh. Didn't stop the ache. But it gave his death meaning. And that mattered. That night, I sat by the window and watched the city lights flicker. "I miss you," I whispered. And for the first time, I felt ready to let the story end. But life had one more chapter waiting. One Daniel never planned for. One that belonged only to me. The invitation sat unopened on my table for 3 days. White envelope. Simple font. Heavy meaning. I already knew what it was before I touched it. A formal request. A public hearing. They wanted me to speak. I stared at it every morning. Walked past it. Ignored it. Pretended it wasn't there. Because speaking meant reopening everything. Daniel's fear. Daniel's last days. Daniel's death. And I wasn't sure I had the strength left. But on the 4th night I dreamed of him. Daniel stood in our living room. Not sick. Not tired. Not afraid. He looked like he used to. Relaxed, smiling softly. "You're quiet," he said. I tried to speak, but my voice wouldn't come out. "You don't have to be afraid anymore," he continued. "I am," I whispered. He stepped closer. "Then speak anyway." I woke up crying. And I knew. I opened the envelope. They weren't just asking for facts. They were asking for truth. The human truth. Officer Reyes called that same afternoon. "I heard you got the request," he said. "Yes," I replied. "You don't have to do this," he added gently. "I know," I said. A pause. "But you're going to," he said. "Yes," I replied. The building was packed. Press everywhere. Security tight. Faces tense. I sat alone in the waiting room, my hands folded tightly in my lap. Someone handed me water. I didn't drink it. My mouth was dry anyway. When they called my name, the room fell silent. Every eye turned toward me. I walked slowly to the stand. Each step felt heavy. I looked out at the room. Officials. Lawyers. Journalists. And somewhere behind them, people like Daniel. People who had been ignored. Silenced. Used. I took a deep breath. And I spoke. "My husband was not a hero," I began. Murmurs spread through the room. He was not fearless. He was not powerful. I swallowed. He was afraid. Every day. Silence. He stayed awake at night wondering if he was doing the right thing, I continued. He worried about who would protect his family. My voice shook, but I didn't stop. He knew the truth would cost him, I said. And he told it anyway. I paused. "That's not heroism," I said softly. "That's humanity." Some people cried. Some looked away. I kept going. "He recorded that video because he knew he might not survive," I said. "He trusted that someone would listen." I looked directly at the panel. "I am asking you not to let his voice disappear." One official leaned forward. "If you had the chance," he asked, "would you ask him to stay silent?" The room held its breath. I closed my eyes. Thought of Daniel. His tired smile. His shaking hands. His final promise. "No," I said. And my voice didn't break. The hearing ended hours later. Outside, the sun was setting. The sky burned orange and gold. Daniel would have loved it. Reporters rushed toward me. I didn't stop. I walked past them. Past the noise. Past the cameras. That night, I went home and opened a box I hadn't touched since his funeral. Inside were letters. Daniel's handwriting. Letters he had written over the years, but never sent. One caught my eye. Dated months before everything began. I opened it. "If you're reading this, then something went wrong. I don't want you to remember me as brave. Remember me as honest. And if the truth ever feels heavy, remember this. It was never meant to be carried alone." I cried until I couldn't anymore. Weeks later, changes were announced. New laws. New protections. New oversight. They called it reform. But I knew the truth. Reform came at a cost. And Daniel paid it. People still recognized me sometimes. Sometimes they thanked me. Sometimes they stared. I learned to live with both. One evening, I stood by the river and watched the water move steadily forward. I whispered, "You didn't die for nothing." And for the first time, I believed it. The story was almost over. But before it could end, there was one last thing to say. One final truth. One final message. The story doesn't really end when the cameras turn off. It ends quietly, in the moments when no one is watching. Months after the hearings, after the headlines faded, after the world moved on, I found myself standing alone in our living room one last time. Boxes everywhere. Memories stacked neatly in cardboard. Daniel's books. His jackets. His notes scribbled in the margins of newspapers. a life reduced to objects. I picked up his old phone, the one he used before everything began. No messages, no calls, just silence. I sat on the floor and let myself cry. Not the sharp, desperate crying from before, but the slow, tired crying of someone who has carried too much for too long. That's when I understood something important. Justice doesn't erase pain. It gives it meaning. Daniel wasn't special because he was perfect. He was special because he chose honesty when silence was safer. He knew the cost, and he paid it anyway. This story is not just about corruption. It's about courage. Quiet courage. The kind that doesn't look brave at all. It's about how evil doesn't always shout. Sometimes it smiles. Sometimes it raises a glass. Sometimes it celebrates when it thinks no one is watching. And it's about how truth doesn't always win loudly. Sometimes it waits. Sometimes it hides. Sometimes it survives in a small video, recorded by someone who knew his voice might be all that was left. If there is one lesson this story teaches, it's this. Silence protects the powerful, not the innocent. Another lesson is just as important. Betrayal often comes from the closest places. Not strangers, not enemies, but people we trust. And the hardest lesson of all, doing the right thing doesn't always save you, but it can save others. Daniel once told me something I didn't understand at the time. He said, "Truth doesn't need permission to exist." Now I do. I didn't tell you this to scare you. I told you this to remind you. Your voice matters. Your honesty matters. Your choices matter. Somewhere right now, someone is being silenced. Someone is being ignored. Someone is being told to let it go. This story is for them. If this story touched you in any way, please like this video. It helps this story reach someone who needs it. Subscribe to the channel for more powerful real-life inspired stories. Share your thoughts in the comments. Your words may help someone feel less alone. Share this video with a friend, a family member, or anyone who needs to hear this story today. Because stories don't change the world alone. People do. And as for Daniel, they celebrated his death. They laughed. They raised glasses. But they didn't know. His voice would live longer than their lies.